Soy responsable del área de competitividad en la Organización Mundial del Turismo, dentro de la cual está todo el tema de desarrollo de producto y en específico el tema de enoturismo. Me vais a ver mañana hacer las conclusiones de todo lo que se ha dicho estos 2 días, pero por ahora realmente mi rol aquí hoy es dar la bienvenida a nuestras invitadas especiales. Tenemos el privilegio de tener 2 personas con mucha experiencia que seguro van a compartir mucho, además de 2 partes del mundo muy diferentes que muchas veces miramos hacia allá. We have someone coming from the United States and also from South Africa, destinations which everyone thinks when you think about wine tourism. So I think we're very privileged, and I'm sure we're going to learn a lot today. The topic of this workshop, for those who do not know, and in case you're thinking you're in another workshop, we're going to talk about how wine tourism can actually empower communities, but more than anything else, how can it actually improve the lives of the people that are in the community. This is a very important point for us, how tourism can actually bring new opportunities to territories that didn't have them before. So I'm not going to take more of your time, because we also want to enjoy afterwards the fantastic wines and the experiences that will wait for us outside. And I'm going to ask Mariette, and I'm going to try to say her surname properly, Todd Embold, to join us. Mariette established Destinate, a destination management and strategic marketing company in 2013, after 10 years as, very important, award-winning CEO of Cape Town Tourism. So Mariette, those who want to know more will check your bio, but more than anything else, we're ready to hear from you. The floor is yours.
It's great to be back in the southern bit of the Americas. Greetings from South Africa. So we share the same galaxy and I think a little bit of the same heart, which is a heart for experiencing tourism from the heart through people. And really my message is very simple today is that without people, tourism is nothing. And it's wonderful to be here in Chile. I've been wanting to come to Chile for many, many years. And if anyone knows me, maybe from looking at Instagram, I like to deep dive into a destination. So that's the only way I travel, even when I travel for work, because I really feel that we do a great injustice to places if we just stay on the surface. And that is one of the greatest things about wine tourism, and that I've learned, is that people want to connect and break bread and have a great glass of wine. So many people ask, what am I? I'm a destineer. And we say we bring brands and places and people together over a good glass of wine and a good plate of food most of our lives. So this is home for me. I live in the Cape Winelands in South Africa. It's about 30 minutes from the city of Cape Town. And I am not retired. I work really, really hard, unlike it looks like you could retire here. But, and as a mother of small children, who are mothers of small children here? Who's tired? Okay, right. The exhaustion is at the next level, and I really think it sums up the state of the world. We are tired, we're afraid, we are a little bit jaded. We wonder if there's still any authentic destination left in the world. And we crave connection, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about why wine tourism. Why am I an advocate for wine tourism? It's not the only thing I do, but it's one of my passions. Now that I'm no longer working for government, I get to do what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about women and wine and fashion and travel, of course, and I get to do all of those things together now. But the world is realizing that wine is being produced in beautiful places around the world. And most importantly, they are realizing that these places do a lot more than make good wine. They are places with culture, interesting people, festivals, adventure. Who's into cycling? I'm going cycling early tomorrow morning with some local people. I love cycling. And one of the biggest trends in the world is cycling tourism. You see a lot of mammals around, middle-aged men in Lycra. And certainly in South Africa, cycling is very, very big. So more and more wine tourism is not about just what we're drinking, but what about we doing? And people want to do. They want to experience through doing. We no longer want to be a passenger. We want to be involved. And most importantly, it's about the people, because people are the warm hearts of the destination, the flesh and blood of the places we live. And essentially, people make places come to life. And being memorable is really, really important when you're a bottle of wine in a shelf in a shop. And people like me, because I'm not a connoisseur of wine, I'm a lover of wine, we stand in front of that shelf and you wonder, what should we have with dinner tonight? And then, from now on, because I have had some experiences when I arrived, I took myself out to lunch, like I often do when I travel. I travel alone a lot. Who enjoys having lunch alone? When you have children, I really enjoy having lunch alone. I am not intimidated by being a female traveler on my own, and I will never stay at home. I will go out there and enjoy. Anyway, I was sitting there, and through the food and the experience, next time I see a bottle of Chilean wine on the shelf, guess which wine I'm going to take? That bottle, because of the experience I've had. Most important thing for me around the opportunity of wine tourism, we have seen it firsthand in a place like South Africa, which needs economic development very, very much, like I think many places in Chile. We also have a problem that a lot of our South Africans don't drink wine. We export a lot of our best wine. Do you have the same problem? Not? You drink your own wine? More than Pesco, everything? You drink wine? Okay. So we need to make sure that the economic benefit of wine and wine tourism spreads away from just the cities. And we have seen firsthand how wine tourism has boosted the local regions. So just a little bit quickly, South Africa, we've got 20 wine regions, at least 16 wine routes. The oldest wine route was established in 1975 in the region where we live. That wasn't started for tourism, it was started for practical reasons, to be able to get wine to the shops. But now it became, many years ago, a tourism route. It's the Stellenbosch wine route. Today it's got more than 152 wineries on that route alone, and it's world famous. So you are my guest to come if ever you are in that region. And the most important thing is that these wine routes have brought public and private sector together and has connected the dots, and has encouraged over the last few years visitors to travel beyond the mountain, like we say, into the rural regions, and have given way to developments like this wedding chapel, which is an award-winning wedding chapel in a very small town, quite far away from Cape Town, where visitors didn't normally go because it's a very agricultural region. But now visitors are wanting to go deeper and further. And the statistics are showing us that for every winery, about 10 small businesses are being supported around that winery, whether it is laundry, cooking, cleaning, transfers, experiences that they are offering. So it's a wonderful microcosm. So yes, it's most importantly about that value chain of tourism that we talk. So in 2016, after many years of arm wrestling with government, I wrote South Africa's first national wine tourism strategy. And what we did really was to say, let's unite the industry behind a common vision and a common goal and some targets. And the targets are very important because we need to know where we are going. A plan is essential because otherwise we all fall around. You know, we've seen some beautiful marketing material, you've seen some nice images, and yes, they give us goosebumps, but are they really going to change and bring positive change around? That's what we need to do. So we need a strategy. And we've seen in the first year a 16% growth in wine tourism. And with the goal of 25% growth by 2025, we are well on the way to reach that goal. And the most important thing that we can report back is that wine tourism in small regions are growing much faster than even in the bigger, well-known regions. Because all of us want to go deeper, but we want people to help to show us how to get there, and we want those really meaningful experiences. So the value chain, as I said, is important. So through wine tourism, we have seen amazing experiences being developed. Like this experience is in Stellenbosch, and it's called Dine with the Local. Now, we host a lot of international media and trade every year. And we have, in the winelands, of the top 10 restaurants in South Africa, 7 of the top 10 restaurants are just in that small space. But guess what the media is writing about this? Where they can go to the house of a local family, sit down, break bread, hear the stories, and understand what it means to be a local citizen. And for these communities, they are welcoming visitors into their homes. It is safe, you are feeling so welcome, and you leave changed. And that brings me to a couple of nuggets that I want to close off with that you need to remember, and which we've learned over the last few years working in wine tourism. We all want to go deeper. We crave that human connection, right? And in this world in which we live, where everything is so kind of monotone and same, lots of places have great wine, great beaches, great mountains, great hotels. But our people define who we are. Our story defines who we are. And we want to reconnect. We are constantly connected. I was just chatting to our friend from the USA as well, who now lives in Chile, that we are distracted all the time by this telephone of ours, right? We are always available, but we are not really connected truly. And when we go and travel, people want to immerse and they want to connect for themselves and to the places that they're visiting. And essentially, when we are marketing and telling stories, what do we need to deliver to the world? Moments of inspiration. When I'm sitting in my office in London and it's raining outside, we need to deliver people moments of inspiration. They go, oh, I need that in my life right now. This was me on Tuesday. I don't remember what day it is today. Tuesday, just around the corner from here. And when I go to Chile, This is what I remember, a moment of inspiration. A bottle of wine with a piece of cheese and nice grapes next to it does not sell a destination. Experiences and moments of inspiration do. And as I said, it's the people who make a place come to life and define who we are. I want to tell you a very quick story about ducks. So 2 years ago, I was asked to help a winery that's a very old winery. It's been around for many, many years, and it's called Vergenoegd, and that means far enough, okay? They were the very first winery on the Stellenbosch wine route, and their numbers were really low. They were not attracting anybody because they didn't have any experiences to offer visitors. And they said to me, Mariette, we want to really embrace wine tourism. We have new owners from Germany, and we want to invest a lot of money here, and we think we want to push our old red wine. And I said, what? Yes, we want to push our old red wine. We have wonderful old red wines. I said, join the queue of 152 other wineries within an hour around you that are all selling old red wine. You need to find something that is going to make people sit up and notice you. And at that moment, a bunch of Indian runner ducks came running past. And I said, tell me about your ducks. So these ducks go into the vineyards in the morning, and they clean the vineyards from snails. So it's a natural anti-pesticide, yeah? And they happen to be really cute. And I have children. My children go crazy about ducks. So now what we said, this duck needs to become your story. So they put the ducks in the logo. We put them on the wall. In Easter time, we paint them. The ducks are everywhere. Okay? They have a duck hatchery. And this hatchery was behind the winery. Nobody ever saw it. It was really run down. And they have a guy called Denzel. He's an old black guy who has been working on Vergenoegd for maybe 20 years. And we said, we are going to give you a title, Denzel the Duck Dad. And now he does tours of the hatchery. And he's a star. He was on the movie with the Daily Mail, came. Within 1 week, they had hit 20 million views. And today, Vergenoegd is one of the most visited wineries in South Africa. They have big events. And now the ducks do not run behind the manor house anymore. We said, let them run in front of the manor house, run at 10 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so that the children and the parents can come. They know 10 o'clock we come, the ducks are running, we can take pictures. And it is a huge success. So this is their story. They found something that's a little bit different. And then very quickly, remember my story about the South African market. So our own local market of wine consumption is probably only about 5 to 6% of the population. The majority of our South Africans, of course being black South Africans, do not drink wine. They have been ignored as a market in South Africa for centuries. And as a result, whiskey and white spirits and other categories have grabbed that market because they have a very big income and a rising middle class. And in the research that I did during doing the wine tourism strategy, we realized that we need to change the way in which we market to our own South Africans before we just focus on the rest of the world, which is very fragile and lots of competition, of course. So what we also realized is that we cannot continue selling wine, with no disrespect to anybody here in the room, to old gray people, white people. We have to sell it in the way that South Africans, black South Africans, want to experience. So we came up with a whole new concept to build a new wine tribe for South Africa. We started the Joburg Wine Club. Johannesburg is north from Cape Town. We have a very big population in that area and high earning. Okay? And the slogan of Joburg Wine Club is, it's all about you. It's not about Constantia and Stellenbosch and the old wines. It's about what you want. So we we have this club. We have now about 2,500 members. They are incredibly engaged and passionate about wine. The wine consumption is rising by the day dramatically. And you can see if you go on the Instagram, the Johannesburg Wine Club, you can follow that and go and have a little bit of look at what we're doing. We have events throughout the year, and they are really parties. Great and amazing parties. And what we're really doing is to change our followers into fans of wine, lovers of wine. And the ingredients are simple. It is community, it's friendship, it's fashion, it's music, it's really good food. We don't serve crackers and water. It's really good food in beautiful locations with beautiful people. And I want to end off showing you a little video. We also do tours to the winelands for our club, and then we create parties in the winelands as well. And it's been such a joy to be with you. I look forward to chatting more as I end off with this video. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mariette. I think that was quite inspiring. We will have time for questions to Mariette after the second presentation. But for me, I think probably the message is create your own story and find it in your essence, and that duck essence of the community is really what's your story. So I think the challenge here is to find that essence wherever it is in the community. So without further delay, we're here to hear from our experts. It's my great pleasure to invite to join us now Claudia Vecchio. She has more than 25 years of experience in destination marketing. She's now the president and CEO of Sonoma County Tourism, but she's been also the director of the Nevada Department of Tourism. She's been responsible for the Ohio Division of Tourism. So a lot of experience, Claudia. We're here to hear from you, and afterwards to listen to the questions of the audience. Claudia, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for spending the afternoon here. I know you have a whole line of shopping and wine out there that you want to get to, so hopefully in the next couple of minutes I'll be able to just kind of share a little bit about Sonoma County, California. How many of you have been to Sonoma County? Do we have anybody? Oh my gosh, lots of Sonoma County folks. Hopefully you enjoyed your experience there. How many of you thought maybe you were going to Napa? We get a lot of people who, a lot of people who confuse Sonoma County with Napa County, and they are very different, and hopefully I'll be able to kind of share a little bit about what the differences are between these two highly competitive but very close geographic entities. So Sonoma County kind of has a long history in agriculture. It started out with apples and a lot of apple trees and the Gravenstein apples, and really was what Sonoma County was well known for, the agricultural piece. But some very wise farmers along the way determined that grapes were more profitable than apples. So they started to become winemakers and grape growers. Sonoma County also, because of its unique location along the coast of California, has this extraordinary coastline, has a lot of different types of experiences, and a lot of the destinations represented here today also have a diversity of experience. And really the question for us is, how do we create this extraordinary wine experience amongst all the other things that visitors can do in Sonoma County as well as in your own destinations. But certainly Sonoma County is a very well-known and very well-established wine destination. So just kind of as those of you who haven't been there, as a kind of a geographical overview of Sonoma County, we are in California. We are in Northern California. This is San Francisco, and we are just 30 miles north, 30 half hour, I'm trying to convert in kilometers, it's not working, about a half hour north of the Golden Gate Bridge. So a lot of folks who come into the San Francisco area do take the opportunity to go up to Sonoma County, to go to Napa Valley, and to experience some of California's extraordinary wines. The wine industry in California, as you can well imagine, is a large one. We represent almost half of all winemaking in the entire United States. California itself has about 3,700 wineries. And so I'll talk a little bit about Sonoma County and where we stand and all of that, but certainly a very well-established part of the world. Sonoma County was started quite a while ago. It actually was discovered by a group of Russian explorers who came over, and they landed on the coast. And then, as you can see, in 1857, a Hungarian count came into Sonoma County and established wine down in that area. And in the 1980s, there's a lot of history in between all these time periods, but in 1980s, grapes were really, Sonoma County made the transition from being very agricultural, sort of a diverse agricultural area, into being a very distinctive grape growing area, and then by 1989, grapes were the #1 producer in the county. So as we talk about how wine and wine tourism is really such an important economic driver for the county, Sonoma County kind of came late to that. It wasn't until fairly recently that really understood the value of that, and now really the tourism and the wine tourism industry in Sonoma County represents a $2.1 billion industry, and it employs more than 27,000 people in Sonoma County. So we really, it is an incredibly important part of the economy. And as I'll talk about at the end, when crises and other things hit Sonoma County, and it makes a dent in that very fragile economy, it makes a big difference. Today, Sonoma County has 17, and those were kind of outlined in that slide, 17 AVAs. And AVA is American Viticultural Area. So there are 17 different parts of Sonoma County, and they all sort of act independently. Unfortunately, there is an independent spirit in Sonoma County that we love, but it also causes some independent thinking that doesn't do all the best for a brand, but it really is that sense of independence. And Sonoma County is such an extraordinary wine destination because of the number of microclimates. There are over 100 microclimates in Sonoma County that really allow these different varietals to be grown in this fairly small area. Sonoma County is about 1 million square acres. So it's a large county, but as you're looking at the different regions that you all are talking about, it's a fairly small area. More than 60 grape varieties, and and grapes themselves are $11 billion to the local economy, 40% of the local gross domestic product. So it is an enormous part of what makes Sonoma County tick. We are, like all of you, and it's really fantastic to be listening to the sustainability and the stewardship messages that have been talked about today. It really is very much a part of what we're doing from a Sonoma County standpoint moving forward, and we really are led by our wine growers. So the grape growers, about a decade or so ago, determined that they wanted to be the most sustainable grape growing region in the world, and today 99% of our grape growers are certified sustainable. I don't know if you are familiar with Wine Enthusiast magazine, but they just named Sonoma County the wine region of the world because of our commitment to sustainability. So as a tourism marketing organization, we too are taking the mantle of being stewards, being better destination stewards, and making sure that we not only market, it's not about numbers anymore. The Sonoma County has a lot of tourists. It's not about the numbers, although I'll show you the number in a second. But it's not about the numbers any longer. Really, it's about getting the right people and doing the right things. And as a destination stewardship organization, we actually have instituted a Travel Kindly pledge. So we really want our visitors to come in and pledge to do 10 different items that will protect and preserve our natural, cultural, industrial resources moving forward. We certainly don't want to be that tourism organization that destroyed the natural resources for our children. So the Travel Kindly Pledge is something that we encourage every visitor and local to sign as well. So I was asked to talk about the governance of Sonoma County as it relates to its wine industry. We have 3 general organizations and then a number of different organizations that are associated with the AVAs. So we have the Sonoma County wine growers. Obviously, they represent the farmers, those who grow the grapes. We have the Sonoma County vintners. They represent those who are in the winemaking business and our wineries. And then from our standpoint and bringing tourists in, we are Sonoma County Tourism. The AVAs also each have their own organizations, and they market those areas as in a number of different ways, and I'll show you that here in just a second. So the wine growers really, they focus a lot on workforce development, on issues and policies that govern their workforce, and there are a lot of those issues. Sonoma County is a very expensive place to live, and for wine folks who work in the vineyards, it's a very challenging place to live. So they do a lot of workforce issues, housing issues, making sure that these people have a great place to live and to work, but that is a challenge in a place that's as expensive as Sonoma County. But you can just see some of the other things that they do here. They have partnerships with Guild Somm, and they also do an annual Somm camp. They bring in sommeliers from around the world, and they come to Sonoma County and really work at the different kinds of. It's kind of a celebration of food and wine in Sonoma County that they do now, I guess, biannually. But you can read that. I don't want to read all these to you. The Sonoma County Vintners, they do an extraordinary wine auction, and you might recognize the 2 on the top up there. That's Gina Gallo and Chris Jackson from Jackson Family Wines and the Gallo Empire. They were our chair people this year, but they do a wonderful auction that brings money back into our local economy. So also, not only does the wine industry and employ people and drive the economy, but through their efforts, they also add to the economy and to the various social issues that we are dealing with. They do a barrel auction. We have a wine month that we're all celebrating wine during that time. And again, both these organizations have foundations, and those foundations do help with a number of different issues that are facing our wine community. I mentioned the AVAs. They do a lot of events, and I don't know if you are in an environment where events are both a good and a bad thing. So these events, first of all, certainly do raise awareness of Sonoma County wines, but they bring in hordes of people, and so the locals are not happy about these events. So we are currently trying to really balance the value of all of the economic impact with the sort of over-tourism that comes in as a result of these events, and something that we still are working through. We certainly don't have the answer to it yet, and I would welcome any insights that you all have from similar kinds of events. But the wineries, certainly with 435 wineries that are open to the public, they all do their own events. They are all working on their own marketing plans and marketing activities, and they do things individually. So they have a series of events. They have wine clubs, which really are the most important part of our wineries. And I didn't include this in the presentation, but I've been so interested to hear from a lot of you in terms of your wine industries. In Sonoma County, the visitation part of a winery is secondary. They are much more interested in direct-to-consumer sales and getting people involved with wine clubs. So if you come in and you go to the tasting room, their win is if you join the wine club. Not if you have a great experience, that's secondary. Even if you come to Sonoma County, that's good. But if you join the wine club, boom, that's great, and they really have the win. So from a tourism standpoint, we are trying to work with these wineries to help them understand that it really is part of their responsibility and their great opportunity to bring people into the community as well as just direct-to-consumer and or these wine club opportunities. So it's kind of a challenge that we're having to deal with right now. Sonoma County as a tourism destination is a pretty large one for a county of our size. We get about 10.8 million visitors a year. 4.8 million of those are overnight, and 6 million are local, drive distance from San Francisco and those markets. You can see we get about 10% of our visitation is international. We would love to increase that, and we do have efforts underway to do that. You can see, though, while wine may be not all we have in Sonoma County, it certainly is the top driver. 41% of the folks who come in are coming in, going to our wineries. The other ones are doing very similar things that you would see in pretty much any other destination: shopping, fine dining, going to historical sites and regional parks. Very much the profile of a cultural traveler, but that is certainly Sonoma County tourists kind of in a nutshell. Interestingly, so I've been in Sonoma County about 2 years, and when I got there, there was this brand trio. I talked about those 3 different organizations that are involved with promoting wine and wine tourism. And this was how it looked. And while that may be perfectly fine, there is nothing about that from a tourism standpoint that generates any interest, that generates any emotional connection. So we came in and we said, you know what? It's time for us to take another look at this. It's time for us to, and you've talked a lot about this, those of you who've talked about branding this morning, that a good brand is like art because it makes you feel something. And for Sonoma County, while wine is clearly central to the experience, it's the destination that's rich in depth and rich in complexity, and it simmers with an adventurous spirit, and you can read the rest of this. But Sonoma County is meant to be savored and enjoyed over time. While both Sonoma County and Napa Valley, because we do a lot of comparisons between the two, offer a luxury vacation experience, the brand of luxury is different. Napa is seen as glamorous, as exclusive and sophisticated, which is perfectly fine. But Sonoma County is more intimate, personal, and engaging. That chance to connect one-on-one with winemakers and families and people who are really at the front lines of winemaking in Sonoma County is what makes it really so interesting and fun for a wine traveler. We say Sonoma County's connecting, it's fiercely independent, progressive, it's real, it's unpretentious, it's generous. And while wine isn't the only reason to visit, it definitely is reasons 1 through 10. And the natural beauty when you come to Sonoma County hits you up and the mind opens up. So how do we create a brand that not only says that we are authentic and we are real, but that wine is certainly a part of this, but not everything. So our brand positioning statement became, for those who go their own way, Sonoma County, it's a progressive community of artisans. So whether you are an actual artist, whether you're a banker, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're an insurance salesman, what you do and the way you do it is with an artistic flair. So we create meaningful and down-to-earth experiences that connect people to encourage them to discover more. So in your basic word cloud kind of a look here, you can see the kinds of terms that come up when people start talking about Sonoma County. So this video kind of shows a little bit about what we think the brand of Sonoma County, how we really see that emotional connection. So the brand mantra that we developed is Sonoma County, life opens up. So like a sommelier talks about wine opening up, so too does an experience and a vacation in Sonoma County, both from a spiritual and an emotional way, and also a natural way, the way you experience Sonoma County. So the one thing that we've had to deal with, and I don't know if you all have heard about this, but we had 2 wildfires. Really, in the past 3 years, we've been impacted by 3 major California wildfires. So from a marketing standpoint, we have really had to come back, and now we're having to come back twice. We just had another big fire in October, and that, you can see the image of the wedding couple up there with the masks over their face. That was the picture that went viral on social media. So, we could talk about crisis and coming back from a crisis for hours, but really from our standpoint, because our fires now are happening in October, almost like clockwork, we have to completely pivot our marketing message away from this harvest and fall time period, especially for international travelers, for weddings and other people who have to plan, a long time in advance. We are no longer a reliable destination for the time being during this time period. So we have to pivot. And we are going to be really marketing spring, which nicely aligns with the idea of life opening up, but to work on to market spring, especially for those long haul and long planned kinds of weddings. So lots of things. I know lots of you have to deal with crises, but it always requires us to take a new look at the way we market and a new look at the way we have our destination going. We did do a strategic plan. There are a couple of copies back there if anybody's interested. This is sort of our biannual strategic plan in the back. And then I brought with me a bottle of Gary Farrell Pinot Noir from the Russian River. If anybody would like a little sip afterward, I'm happy to share. Will you share that with you? And then I have a couple trivia questions for the big hats. So how many wineries are there in Sonoma County?
27.
Huh? No. That's in California. In Sonoma County, there are 400 and... I'll just throw that out if anybody wants it. And what is the brand that we came up with in Sonoma County? Sonoma County... Open up. There you go. Thank you. And what's my last question? Which is better, Sonoma County or Napa Valley? Thank you all. Come to Sonoma County. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Claudia. I'd ask you to both join me here on stage and have a little chat, not between us, but with you. So I'm just here to facilitate. We wanted this to be a more interactive moment because we know how difficult it is in big rooms. And I have 2 hands up, so please bring the microphones to the people with the hands up immediately so we don't lose any more time.
Oh, they've got another one.
They have another one in the back. Yeah. And we can share this one. Recuerdo que se quieren hacer preguntas en español. Pediría solo que me acerquen 2 aparatos de interpretación por si alguien quiere hacer una pregunta en español para las personas que acaban de presentar.
Buenas tardes, Aureliano Rosales, técnico de nivel superior en turismo, con experiencia en desarrollo local y turismo de base comunitaria para cooperación internacional. He visto que las ponentes han realizado un trabajo muy interesante en el desarrollo de las comunidades y quería saber si existe alguna metodología de intervención rural que ellas hayan utilizado y que haya conseguido resultados.
Muchas gracias. I'm going to translate very quickly while the interpretation sets come. Our friend here is studying rural development, and he was asking if you have used any methodology within your experience on how to develop community and rural tourism.
So in my experience, yes, not in Sonoma County, because Sonoma County was sort of developed when I got there. But when I was in another state of Ohio, Ohio was a state that was largely manufacturing. But as those manufacturing plants started to close, those were, in many cases, they were one industry towns. So the manufacturing plants would close down and people were out of work. They had nothing. So that was really an extraordinary opportunity for tourism to come in. And it came in, first of all, with artists and with people with creative folks who came in and took over some of those old buildings and made them into art space, and started to create events that brought in artists from around the area and the region. And as they started to create a following, those events and those art spaces grew. So some of the other things that were sort of more costly to create, restaurants, other kinds of businesses, then could come in because there was an economy that was starting to develop around this arts area. That worked very well in Ohio, and it really was a way to change one industry into another. And obviously, tourism is a more sustainable industry than some of this manufacturing. So those industries continue to this day, and that's been over 15 years. So that was how we kind of more changed the economy in Ohio, at least.
Yes, certainly from a South African perspective, sustainability, rural economic development, community development is at the core of everything we do. So it's pretty much the pillar and the thread that runs through everything. So in terms of the wine tourism strategy, it's a core component of the strategy. And of course, if you remember back to 2002, the first global sustainability conference was happening in Cape Town. So it's really incredible to see what a core part. It's almost, we don't even have separate programs really, because it's the program. So certainly from a community development, a sustainable farming, it's such an incredible, important component. So there's lots of information about it. You're welcome to speak to me afterwards on it. But every single winery has a sustainability strategy, has a community development strategy, and it runs from the big guys right down to the small guys. So it's really exciting to see that industry transforming, and in many ways the wine and the tourism industry is leading the way in terms of sustainability and economic and social development.
I'm Bill from Sonoma County, and but as practiced in South Africa, could you explain and give more details about the Dine with a Local program?
Sure, just very briefly, what we do is we have a program in the core of the winelands, which is the Stellenbosch-Franschhoek area, if you know South Africa or the winelands. And we have a program with local families where visitors can opt to go and enjoy dinner with the local family. So it's really a variety of communities. You can either have a dinner with a farming community where the farmer will do a barbecue for you. My friends from Portugal, they were joining us for a traditional barbecue, and we took them for harvest in February. And you really get to meet the farmers and drink wine. You can also go into a traditional black family where you learn about the black culture, the language, the food. There's always singing and dancing. And really what it is visitors roll up their sleeves, they chop the tomatoes, they learn to cook, they share food and stories and experiences, and it's incredibly memorable. So the local tourism office runs that, and they've structured it into packages. So you can actually book it through the local tourism office and decide which kind of program you want. We also tailor-make programs. Essentially what we've decided is that we should never have an experience for bloggers or media that you cannot buy as a visitor. So we don't give special treatment to media or bloggers. We create experiences that then can be packaged and that visitors can experience as well. And we have fantastic wine tourism operators in South Africa that are constantly developing new experiences with communities. And there's some fascinating information on that available on the internet. Again, I can give you some direction on that as well.
Thank you very much. Yes, we have a question in the back.
So I'm not from Sonoma County, I'm from Napa County. Oh. You'll notice I am more sophisticated and cultured. I actually had an answer to the first question. I'll continue in English, is that okay? Yeah. Okay. Which is, I think you need 3 pieces immediately. You need a winery, you need a place to stay and a place to eat. If you can combine these things into a program, you have the beginnings of a regional tourism program. They support each other, they offer complementary activities, and once that starts to happen, other organizations and other industries and other companies want to get involved. But you need at least those three. If you don't have a place for people to stay, if you don't have a place for people to eat, and some wine to drink, it's going to be hard. Okay? And I have a question specifically for Sonoma County, because you are struggling with exactly the same problem we are. Our housing costs are higher, but you have lost more homes in the fires. And I would love to hear what solutions you have for finding housing for nurses, school teachers, policemen, elementary school teachers who cannot afford to live in our community because it's too expensive. Once you begin to lose those people, you begin to lose your sense of community. And as we talk about wine tourism as in developing a local community, that's an issue you need to address.
Well, there's no question. That's an enormous issue that anybody who lives in a place that is too expensive for most people to live, they are dealing with this issue. I don't have the answer to that. I know that we are now starting to see sort of the rural equivalent of exurbs. So those who used to be able to live in Sonoma County are now moving up to Mendocino County, and their commutes are much longer. And we're getting people from much further area out and having to either bus them in or bring them in. So it's an issue that I do not have an answer for. It is an issue that I know our supervisors, as are yours, looking at ways that we can build affordable housing. There are some provisions now that anybody who builds a hotel has to build additional housing. The number is commensurate with the number of rooms that are going in. So they're trying to find semi-creative solutions to making sure that our workforce has a place to live. These are primarily people generally who are working in that property, but certainly as the need is for nurses and teachers and others to have housing as well. It's an enormous issue in Sonoma County, and not one that I have a solution to, nor would they listen to me if I did. But I know that they are working on it.
In Napa, we're building about 1,000 affordable housing units, and it's not nearly enough.
No, it's not nearly enough. And you even have a tax measure that helps with that, and we don't have that kind of a thing in Sonoma County. So.
Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Pienso que tenemos otra pregunta atrás.
Hola, buenas tardes. Well, I try to speak English. My English is not very well. Okay.
Don't worry.
But I try.
Se prefiere en español.
Yeah. If I mistake, I try to repeat the pronunciation. I'm from the south of Chile. I work right now with producer wineries in Itata Valley. It's from the south. It's maybe 300, 400 kilometers from the south. And right now, the regional government working with the wineries is farmers, maybe 3,000 producers, grape. But these producers, it may be in wineries, maybe 300 wineries. We have cultural history. We have vines. The 300 years ago is the first vines from Spain and put in Itata Valley. But this zone is not development right now for the tourists. We have not a lot of hotels. And my question is, how many times or how long was the development in Sonoma for the tourists in this zone? What is the mainly for development local, with the producer farmers, we have that we have not development in language, for example, for I don't know what is the como pensamiento
en español no hay
sí,
problema.
como un pensamiento de turismo, digamos.
People are not tourism oriented.
Yeah, como mindset, yeah. It's important take the new generations for development, for develop these people, or it's important bring investment in this zone for these people grow up with this industry.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to repeat and summarize. I think it's a very important point, which is because we're talking about integrating communities, because that's what we want, but often communities don't have the skills or are not tourism prepared, if we can say that. So what's your experience, and how can we bring the capacities to the communities to actually be part of that value chain?
That's an entire day of answers. I would say a couple of things. First of all, does your Minister of Tourism or any of the other tourism promotion organizations offer an opportunity to come in and talk to your community about that?
Yeah. We have 3 institutions from government working in this place.
Okay. So, but then there also are consultants who can come in and help create experiences, help figure out your venture capital. I mean, there are people who do this for a living, and I would strongly almost urge you to bring somebody in that can help create the foundation. You need to plan. You need to take an inventory of what this is big. Take an inventory of what your product and your offerings are, and really to create that whole tourism brand and message around what you're doing. I mean, it's what we all do from the very beginning and kind of built up. But
I have a very simple answer. You already have a product. You already have an amazing story and experiences. It's really just about organizing it a little bit. And we've seen in South Africa, although the first wine route was established many years ago, wine tourism is only really in the last 10 years that it started to grow. And it started with 1 or 2 pioneers, 1 or 2 people. And I don't want to disagree in terms of going to government first, and anybody from government, don't crucify me. But I think sometimes going to government first is the wrong thing to do, because it's not about policies, etc. It's actually about gathering the industry together, because they are the ones who have the product and the experiences, and mobilizing yourselves behind a common goal, which is really about telling your story through unique experiences. So sometimes we think we need to look at a different destination that already has fancy hotels or nice fancy wineries. Actually, visitors want something really authentic that you have. So sometimes we go when we want to change ourselves to be like someone that we think is successful, but it's really just about taking stock, as you say, about what is available already, and how can we, even if it's 5 or 6 people starting together, and then you start a little revolution. It takes 2 people to start a revolution. And before you know it, you have a product and you have an offering. Bring the local government on board to support, but the private sector must drive it. In South Africa, private sector drives wine tourism and tourism in general. And government is there to help create an enabling environment and the platforms and the infrastructure then to add to it. But don't be discouraged. I think it is good to speak to someone that can help give some structure, but don't give your brand over to external people to come and tell you what to do. I think you know essentially who you are and what you have to offer. And it's really just about organizing yourselves a little bit and starting a movement, and then getting the right vehicles in place with some support of government to take it further.
Yeah, and I think I would also go back to the answering the first question, and to you, this is all about creating a very unique sense of your place. And it doesn't matter what your place is, but once a tourist in a very simple way understands the sense of who you are, that's going to do it, and that will start to drive that visitor interest. You need good website, you need good social media, you need good all those kinds of things. But once you understand and can make that unique identifier of who you are as a sense of place, then you'll take off.
Yeah, I would add to her comment, you do not need luxury hotels, and you need leaders. I have a saying, the best thing that government can do is get out of the way. Okay? You need individuals who are visionaries, who are leaders, and again, I repeat, the hotel, the winery, the restaurant. Put a team together of 3 people who really believe in this, and you said 2 people, I'm arguing 3 because the restaurant isn't inside the hotel. And once that begins, the wheel starts to spin. How fast it goes, that depends on some other factors, but that initial start really just requires a few people to stand up and say, I'm gonna make this happen.
Thank you very much. I think then you call the government and you need to ask them for the roads to get there. So I do think it's more of a public-private effort. We have 2 other questions in the back.
Hi, my name is Enrique Rodriguez. My English is no good too, but I will try. We are from Ruta Histórica, tour operator here in the O'Higgins region. But at the same time, we have other few website or tourism portals like Great Chile and Boutique Wine Tours. And in that way, I know that sometimes the comparisons are not great, but maybe it's good to know how do you see or what do you think about the valleys that you visit? Maybe you were only in Colchagua, but what do you think if you compare the experience here that you live versus your experience in Sonoma and South Africa? How far are we, or how in the same line are we in this moment in the few times that you were here?
I think, again, every place is very different and very unique, but certainly from what I've experienced, the quality is phenomenal. The way in which your places, there's personality, which is important. I think the one thing that is important is to have better information around wine tourism available to visitors. What we did in South Africa, we have a big problem because we have some well-established regions and then lots of smaller regions. So one of the things we did with the new wine tourism strategy was created one portal for wine tourism. It's called visitwinelands.co.za if you want to go and have a look at it. And what it did is we leveled the playing field so that the big regions and the small regions were on one platform and everybody had an opportunity to tell their story to the world. And we did cross-regional packaging. So in other words, we encourage visitors to visit Stellenbosch, but also to visit Stanford, like a small region. And of course, it didn't cost them anything. So the portal was an investment. So that's why government is crucial. So I want to not create a war, but I think it has to be a partnership. But my thing is, private sector drives it, but you cannot ignore the government partnerships, and they have to be. They play a very, very key role in this. But it's also about saying, let's put our money and our efforts together rather than promoting ourselves in silos. So I think the opportunity for Chile is to really say, what is the platform that we can create to the world so that it's easier for visitors to find you and to find these unique experiences? Because it's there. Even for me, I've been chatting to some new local friends to say, take me to the local wineries and the small wineries and the small bars and the local farmers markets. I don't know how to get there. I don't see that information. And that's what visitors want. And that's what the beauty of creating little routes, where you can showcase the award-winning restaurants next to a dining with a local experience. A big hotel next to a homestay. Because all of that makes your product and your wine tourism offering.
Yeah, anytime you can, I agree 1,000%. Anytime you can create routes or you can create a passport kind of a thing, you create reasons for people to get out and to venture into these places, tourists love that kind of thing. So I think that that would be a great idea for Chile. I was here before, was in Santiago, and I went out to the Santa Rita winery, which I just absolutely loved. And so the regions that you have are just extraordinary. You have such an exceptional product that it's all about that information. And once the information's out, you won't believe the number of people you'll get here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think that's a very important point because we're talking about community empowerment, and often those little businesses don't have access. So with those routes, they're integrated. With that access, they're integrated. We're going to take one last question because your fellow colleagues from the other workshop are already enjoying some Arctic crafts and Chilean wine. So we will take a last question on the back.
Uno, dos, tres. So, hello, I'm Cynthia. I work in a travel agency in Santiago. And you may know about the current situation in Chile, right? Of course, that is affecting us very hard in tourism. And nowadays, the main visitors in the wineries are international visitors. I'm not pretty sure about the statistics, but I think it's like 80%, right? I would like to know what you would recommend us to attract national visitors, because that is our big challenge in the wineries. That is my question. Thank you.
Well, we could talk about how to manage crisis and the different phases of crisis for an entire day, but the most important thing is to make sure that you are getting information out to your constituents, to your stakeholders, to the local people, that you're correcting misperceptions as they come out. The media will always over-dramatize everything you know. So to make sure that you are conveying through all of your communications channels what the correct information is, and so you are really creating what the reality is as opposed to this overblown reality. People need to be, you have to tell the truth. So if there are times and places and other things that people should not go to or shouldn't, you need to let them know. You can't sugarcoat this. But to make sure that the right information is out on a timely basis, so either it's a daily update or you have it posted on a website or something that people can know, not to scare them, but to inform them, that's incredibly important.
Yeah. Just to add very quickly, we coming from South Africa, we live from one crisis to the next crisis. So it's second nature to us. When there's a riot, we just take a different road. But we've just come out in the Western Cape from a very big drought. And there was a local campaign, very successful, too successful, the campaign, to get local people to use less water. And the campaign was called #Day0, basically scaring people to say that the water will run out on this day. They had a real day with a countdown. Now, it didn't just scare South Africans and Cape Townians into using less water. We did successfully cut our water in half, but the rest of the world stayed away. Because who wants to go to a place where you can't have a shower and you have to queue for water, right? And it was never that dramatic. The truth is we're fine. We all bathed every day, but we can sometimes be too successful in managing a crisis. And we need to be very careful as Claudia said, is to really make sure that we share the information correctly. But then when we've recovered, we need to be very clear about holding people's hands right through that crisis and not just keeping quiet. So I think, again, my frustration of being my first time in Chile is there's so many places I want to go to, but I don't know where I can go. And nobody's talking to me. So my message to you is talk to your travelers. People are not that afraid, especially people coming. There are big crises around the world. Europe, Africa, South America. You are not alone. And travelers are resilient because we see travel as a human right. We will go. So talk to people. There's also an incredible powerful way. If you open your hearts and you are honest, people will rally around you because we all relate to having a crisis. And the point is to say, listen, how can we reorganize ourselves for this time? And how can we inspire our visitors by showing the heart of Chile and by local people reaching out and the industry working together more now than ever before? This crisis will pass. The thing is, I believe in times of crisis, the biggest opportunities exist. Your challenge is how to turn this into an opportunity. That because for the first time, many people are thinking about Chile. Now give them a different reason to come. And to come and experience the real Chile by welcoming them and giving them the right information.
Thank you very much. I think that deserves a round of applause. I want to thank very much Claudia, Marriott, for sharing your insights. They'll be around, so any questions, I'm sure they'll be more than happy to share with you. And now invite you to go outside, enjoy the Plaza de Vino, and enjoy Chilean wines and culture.
If you like some
tomorrow.
Sonoma County wine,
yes.
that's here too.
And there's Sonoma County wine here. So bring your glass if you want to try it.